What's up, everyone? Welcome to the first episode of the Spar podcast. Here we're going to break down UFC 292, give you guys our thoughts on this upcoming card, along with Simon and Alex. Let's go ahead and get into it. So let's go over the Neil Magny and Ian Gary. Excuse me, Ian Machado Gary.
Tell us why, Brad.
What
Tell
are you
us
guys'
why
thoughts
he's
on?
trash.
Man, so
I don't know about that.
I think he's a talented fighter. I think he has a lot of potential. I'm curious to see how he goes in this fight. He did go to Brazil and start training with Oliveira's camp, Shooty Box. So I'm excited to see how that kind of translates into his style. Because I know he's more of he takes advantage of mistakes that people make. He's very calculated in his approach. So I'm curious to see how he trains or how he does after training with Oliveira in Shooty Box in Brazil. So I think he'll have some more aggression, maybe. Maybe his grappling got a little bit tighter. I don't know. We'll see because Neil Magny's a long guy. He's a rangy guy. And so he's have to come in and come out. You know, he can't really stay in range too long with Neil Magny.
Yeah, I think Neil Magny's going to definitely try to take this to the ground, but I think Ian's very talented all-around fighter. This is definitely a test for him. But Neil Magny's just that typical gatekeeper that, it's a test, but I don't know. I think Ian can come out on top with this. I think he's been working solely on his skills. He's been slowly developing. I think he's kind of ready for a test like this. I think it's going to be a pretty easy one. Um, hey, I think too, we might see little mishaps by Ian Gary in this fight, like we see usually with gatekeep, like when they fight these up and coming guys fight gatekeepers. So don't be surprised if Ian messes up, gets taken down. I can definitely see that happening. I'm not sure. Hey, but it could just be a round one KO, but I don't think so.
Ian's ranked now too, so maybe that kind of gets in his head a little bit. He's in the top 15.
Yeah,
So
we're gonna see a mishap, I
there's a
think,
lot more
in this
riding on the
fight.
line.
I don't know what's going to be. If it's going to be like, oh, he's going to get close to this, Neil Magny's going to get close to a submission. I don't think he's going to obviously get one, but we're going to see something like that. I don't know. That's my prediction.
You want to see him tested, in other words.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with
I think
Neil.
Jeff Neal would have gotten the win, but Neil Magny, we'll see.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I think Jeff Neal could have walked through Ian Gary.
Wow.
If that fight were to still take place,
I don't know.
Something happened.
Okay.
I think Jeff Neal would have walked through Ian Gary.
Honestly, that's a fair prediction. Just with the Shafkat fight, Geoff Neal went 3 rounds with him.
He did well,
but yeah. Well, I think we can see something similar with this fight. Like, oh, it's third round. People are like, why is Ian Gary going to the third round with this guy? But it's like, dude, it's Neil Magny. He's a good fighter.
I got to gas up.
And I'm ready to see Ian Gary go. Go ahead. I'm ready to see Ian Gary go 3 rounds with a hard guy. He went 3 rounds against, I think it was Gabe Green. I was actually at that fight. I think it was in Jacksonville. And Gabe Green he wasn't putting any pressure on him. Ian Gary was kind of doing what he wanted. But I think Neil Magny's going to put the pressure on him, and he's going to take it 3 rounds and make it a high-paced fight. I'm curious to see how Ian Gary can go all 3 rounds, with high volume coming at him and probably going his way as well.
If this was 2015, I would actually pick Neil Magny. Right? I totally would.
Yeah, okay. That's fair.
And there was a period of time where, he was beating mid-card guys. You remember Hector Lombard? This guy was, the next big dangerous dude that was coming through, a Brazilian bruiser, massive dude, 185. He was knocking everybody out. And Neil Magny did this thing where he just kind of tied him up against the fence, got him tired, got him working. He made the fight dirty. And it was not where he wanted to be. And as a result, he got very exhausted. He finished him. I think he took his back and just kind of pounded him out. He went on this run at that point. It was about 5 or 6 really great fights where he was beating Stun Gun. He beat all these guys that people were supposed to be the next, big thing. He would do it. He would get close to people. He would tie their hands up, grab their wrists, get them up against the fence and just make it dirty. Where I worry for him now is he's getting that older fighter thing where he's watching and he's watching his own work and he's waiting too much for things to happen. And it's kind of, my big heartbreak as we go through this podcast, you guys are going to see I continuously replay my traumas of being an MMA fan, which is the fall of Anderson Silva, right? So
Yeah.
Magny, I'm not saying he's had that kind of fall from grace, but he's like very tentative now, and he's watching things unfold in front of him. I'm hoping that he comes out and realizes, you know what, this is one of my last opportunities to fight a big name guy. He's he's a bigger draw. Ian Gary's a bigger draw right now than Neil Magny, whether he's too cocky or not. I'd love to see him just throw caution to the wayside and just come out swinging and actually throw. Because if he doesn't throw, he's going to get lined up and he's going to get finished in a first round. He's got to actually get past the fear of getting finished and just go for it. I do have a lot of respect for Magny, though. He's one of those like all-time good guys of the sport. He never would get involved with the trash talk. Unfortunately, it means not a lot of people know who he is, right?
Yeah. I mean, what do you think his path to victory is?
For him, he needs to get him up against the fence and clinch. He needs to just clinch. Yeah, clinching and leg kicks. If he can get leg kicks to take the base out. But like you say, I have trouble picturing what offense he's going to be able to land that's meaningful to the point where Ian Gary's in trouble. He's dangerous right now. What he did to Daniel Rodriguez was pretty impressive. We saw that in person. It was an incredible finish.
That was awesome.
He's one of those guys, Daniel Rodriguez, where I always doubt him. I'm always like, oh, he's not going to do it. He's not going to do this.
Yeah.
He's just some dude from prison, whatever. But he always makes a good showing. He beat the Leech. He beat all these guys. So
I forgot about that.
Barely beat the Leech.
Yeah, I didn't think he won.
Debatably beat the Leech. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Leech destroyed Neil Magny. Right? So now we're doing MMA math. So if I'm putting those two together, we're going to do some MMA math with the main event as well, with the Corey Sandhagen fight against Aljo, because we got to kind of see the body types and everything. But that to me shows that maybe he's not at this point in his life ready to deal with the barnstorming, which I think Ian Gary, this will make you happy, Brad, because I know you want him to fail. So I think you're going to see he's going to do well until he hits a certain level of competition. And I think somebody is at some point going to be able to shut that stuff down. It's kind of like when Connor, he had to walk through the park until finally hit some offense. And it was like, oh man, this guy's not invincible. I think we're going to see a similar path with Ian Gary to Connor.
I agree. Well, before we move on, Brad, you're saying that Ian Gary may not win this fight. How do you think he loses? I mean, how do you think he loses?
This fight is going to decision. I'll go ahead and say that now.
Okay.
I don't see one of these guys finishing the fight before the third round's over. I think Neil Magny, like you said, I think he gets the clinch, puts him against the fence, does some knees to the legs. I think just kind of wears him down a little bit. I don't think he has any dramatic, shots landed on him. I think he just kind of wears him out with pressure, and he gets the decision. Probably could be split decision. It's probably going to be close, but I think he pulls it off.
Split decision. Wow.
Split decision. I think that's how it's going to go down.
All right. Well, I'd like to see you bet on that.
So let's
see where that goes. But before we go into the main event, I want to touch on Chris Weidman. I know, Alex, you were excited about that. Tell me your thoughts on Chris Weidman finally returning after the leg kick.
So my opinion on this is totally not influenced by the fact that I saw him in a restaurant and he was really nice to me. Just kidding. So Chris Weidman ruined my childhood by knocking out Anderson Silva. Okay.
Yeah.
Very depressing. But I had to accept at that point that he was on like a best of all time run. He beat Anderson twice. He knocked out a bunch of dudes, choked a bunch of dudes. And then USADA got involved with UFC. And you could see that both, no hate, Luke Rockhold and Chris Weidman did fall off after their careers went in a weird spot. It's weird. I don't know. I can never know, right? I think Chris has always passed the smell test to me. I don't know. What are you going to say? But I hope he took every steroid in the entire world, because to heal from that injury, you almost need some hormones, something to help you regenerate tissue.
Peptides.
Get something. So it's just, some chewable Flintstones. Like, bottom line, Anderson popped when his leg broke. Connor came out of the test pool with the broken leg. You notice this. He had to retire and unretire to pull a Brock Lesnar. I hope that, beyond all hope, that he did what he needed to do and took the time he needs, because for me, he could have been a continuous great champion for a long time. I'm surprised that he wasn't. But Brad Tavares, man, he's one of those guys. He's operating in the shadows of the division, but he's so
Hmm.
solid. He's so well-rounded. He's got good striking. He's very durable. We forget. Izzy's coming out party was against Brad Tavares. It was a main event on a fight night. It was a great fight, but Brad took a beating. He got battered, but he never was out. He was never rocked to the point where he was completely out. He did get finished recently. It was a little bit quick. I thought that stop was a little bit quick. He's on him a little too soon. I don't want to see guys die, but I still, want to see him have an opportunity to fight back if they're not completely out. I feel like
Yeah, I
Brad.
thought that.
Yeah, what'd you
Go
think of
ahead.
that? The finish.
Well, I was gonna say that I was like kind of like what you were saying. I was a little surprised to see that, Brad was his opponent. I thought maybe they'd give him maybe a worse opponent. I don't know who that would be,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, it's still Chris Weidman, so I mean, he's gonna want, someone decent. But just from all he went through, I thought there'd be a lesser opponent. But you're right, Brad's got a lot of potential. So I don't know.
It's almost like when you make that
Alex,
kind of money, they're going to give you somebody big. Go for it.
Yeah.
are you surprised that Chris Weidman is a plus 220 underdog in this fight?
No, I'm not surprised. I think if I'm looking at live dogs, I don't know when I needed to choose one, but I feel like hmm, it's dangerous. That's the problem with betting. If you want to get good bets, you want to make good money, you've got to find live dogs. Chris Weidman's a live dog. His
Yep,
grappling is solid. He can get him
I
down.
agree.
He look what he did to Kelvin Gastelum. He got him down, got the arm triangle, finished him. It was great. I would love to see. He competed, Chris Weidman, at a recent Polaris. If you guys have Fight Pass, anybody has an opportunity to go check those out. The Polaris events are awesome on
Oh
Fight
yeah.
Pass. Really fun. Fought this little judo powerhouse guy. He got beat, I believe, on a decision, but it was a great showing. He was looking great on his feet, and the wrestling has always been. I mean, he's an All-American. The dude won ADCC trials, I believe. I don't think he won the whole thing, but he did remarkably well at ADCC trials with no jiu-jitsu training. He was basically like an MMA guy who had some wrestling. So, and you see him, he caught some people. I could see him winning by, some sort of, weird scramble. Things get a little messy. I think he's going to get dropped early. I think Brad's going to catch him and he's going to get dropped because he's not been in there a lot. Brad's been in there. He's been
Hmm.
taking
Mm-hmm.
shots. It's so important. Look at Izzy. He fights so much, man. He's comfortable as hell in there because his timing's on. So if Chris wins, question, gentlemen, where does he go from here?
Ooh, that's a tough one. That
I
was my
think.
next question was, do you think he retires? But go ahead, bro.
Oh,
I mean, it's tough because you see this Fight Pass Invitational stuff kind of popping off a little bit, right? You
mm-hmm.
have GSP going in there. You had Anthony Smith, Glover Teixeira. I think more money is going to funnel into that, and I think Chris Weidman could potentially start going that route. If this is his last fight, if it's not, I think maybe he has one or two more. But of course, that kind of depends. I think if it's a bad ending on Saturday and he gets finished,
Mm-hmm.
by KO, unfortunately, I think he might call it a career. But if he wins, I think he's going to try to, get all the squeeze out of the juice, or all the juice out,
Mm-hmm.
all the juice out of the squeeze. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think it depends how
that's a good
Saturday
analogy.
goes.
Yeah, I think if he does well, I think he kind of lurks around. I don't think he's planning the next fight. I think what you said, Brad, he's going to look for these invitationals. He might try to find a way just to stay somewhat active and just kind of lurk. See if there's a decent opponent that he thinks he can beat, and he does that for one or two fights. If he brutally gets knocked out, I don't know. I think we'll have to find out.
Can I give you guys a prediction of what's going to be one of the worst fight nights of all time? And it'll be in the Apex. Okay, picture this. It'll be like four
Yeah.
months from now. It's going to be like Chris Weidman versus Marvin Vittori in the Apex.
Yeah,
Oh God, I'm going to be like, I'm going to cancel everything. ESPN Plus, I just cancel it all. That's it.
they just yeah. All
Just
right,
kidding. We love you,
fellas.
Marvin.
I think it's time for the main event. Sean O'Malley versus
Mm.
Aljamain Sterling. 135 championship belt on the line. What do you guys got? What's your thoughts?
Mm.
Brad, you can go first.
I'll take it first. Oh man, I'll be honest. I think Aljo finishes this fight. Uh, the thing is, the longer the fight goes, the more slippery they get, right? So the harder the grappling it will be for to get submissions on the ground, unless he gets rear naked choke. But I think if he gets a finish, it'll be within 3 rounds. If not, then it's going to go to decision. But I think Aljo controls the fight like he did against Peter Yan the second fight. I think some way he finds a way to get him on the ground and just backpack him for the remaining time in the round. I think he just wins round after round.
Mm-hmm.
But every round starts in the feet, so if O'Malley can catch him, slipping, there's that potential. But I think those odds are pretty low.
Mm.
Yeah, I think Sean's gonna come more ready than what we think. But I went back and watched the Sean Peter Yan or Powder Yan, however they say that, Peter Yan fight, and it wasn't good. I lost a lot of faith in Sugar when I watched that. I rewatched it because I was thinking back like, oh yeah, Sugar won that fight. He did pretty well. I went back and man, he just gave up his back. I mean, his defense wasn't that bad, but Aljo's light years better than Jan when it comes to grappling. We obviously saw that in their last fight. So I think Sugar's going to come way more prepared than what we think. But man, if he starts giving up that back, he's going to try to play against the fence, use his lankiness. But I don't, for 5 rounds, I'm not sure. I know a lot of people can see a decision. I've heard that online,
Mm.
going the 5 rounds but I think it's going to be brutal. That trying to defend Aljo when you're shaped like Sean, like it can help you for a little bit, but after a while, he's going to wear him down. Especially after, like I said, watching that Jan fight. He just gave up his back more times than I want to see if I'm a Sugar fan.
This morning I took in an interview on Submission Radio. The two Australian blokes are really good, and they did an interview with Tim Welch, who is basically the head coach and best friend and everything to Sugar Sean. It was actually really refreshing to hear a coach talk like this because they flat out asked him, I said, well, what path do you see? How do you see him winning? And he goes, I don't know. And they said, are you guys scared? He goes, yeah, I'm scared. He's totally honest. If anything,
Yeah.
like as much as I want to sit here and gas up Sean, because I know he's good for business. The UFC knows he's good for business. He's great for business. They would love it if he hits Aljo with some kind of crazy flying knee in the 5th round after he's been wrestle fucked the entire time. That is a dream for the UFC. And I would love to see it. It'd be fun. In Boston, he'll blow the roof off the place.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know what it's like when somebody grabs a hold of you like that. It's like the way I picture. You guys see when Luke Warch grabs people's hands with 2 hands. That's what I picture when Aljamain gets a hold of people. He bowls them over. He just bowls them over to the ground. He doesn't even take them down. It's just, and Henry jumped in there and wicked underestimated his wrestling. He admitted it too. He said, "I felt you, and I'm sorry. I underestimated what you bring to the table with your takedowns up against the fence and everywhere." This is a classic. My heart is for Sean, and my head is for Aljo because I just know Aljo has to have any iteration of his last 3 or 4 fights will do just fine. Sean has to have the perfect night. Sean has to have the perfect night.
Yeah.
Aljo doesn't have to have the perfect night. He can get caught a couple times, get rocked, get dropped, and still recover and find a way to win. That's where I get concerned.
I think if you go look back, remember Dana was pushing this fight, soon after Aljo's fight with Cejudo.
Yeah.
He was pushing for this fight. Like, Aljo, you better sign, or are they going to get someone else? Who are they going to try to bring in instead of Aljo? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It'd be like an interim title fight because they were pushing Aljo.
They were
Aljo
rushing
wanted
him.
to rest after his fight.
The Marab drama.
I think Aljo has a big chip on his shoulder. I think he's going to come out and make a point. And he's going to put the icing on the cake in this division. And then he's going to move up. And I think he's going to take on Volkanovski. I think that's his plan, is put the icing on the cake, finish his weight class, and just, be the champion and move up and try to get 2 belts. Do you
I
think
agree.
that's a likely scenario?
No, I think that's probably one of the more realistic scenarios. I mean, him moving
Yeah.
up. I don't know about the rest, but yeah, I can definitely see him moving up after this. Um, I don't know. Also, too, like, what do you guys think about? Does Sean have like the knockout power to get that one punch? Because I was just thinking about that. Like, does Sean really have like that one punch kick that can like, oh, it just end the fight? I don't know. Obviously, his early
He's
fights he
shown it. I
did.
mean, look at Eddie Wineland, the
Mm-hmm.
walk off knockout. I think he's had like a few others in there. Do you recall any, Alex? I can't think off the top of my head.
I'm a little on board, Simon, because I'm having trouble right now thinking of people he's one shot deaded once he got on the main cards and in the UFC. Like when he was in
Yeah,
the Contender Series, he was starching people, and it was
yeah.
beautiful. I remember there was this fight against the guy who looked like Louis Gillette. He had like some orange, crazy hair. It was all dyed. Remember that it was the night that Connor's leg broke
Was
in
it the
half, I believe. Remember
was
that?
it Chris?
Gutierrez,
No, it was
Chris
Chris.
Gutierrez.
Chris something, yeah. And he's,
Oh, not Gutierrez, not
Who's
Gutierrez.
who? I can't say his last
do you
name.
know what I'm saying?
I'm struggling. Yeah, it's Chris
I was at this
Mutenyo
fight.
or
I
however.
was in Las
And
Vegas. I was at
You were
people are
there.
probably gonna make fun of us. It's Chris
I
Mutenyo or
was at
however you
this
say it.
fight.
He was
Chris
Yeah.
supposed to be
Chris
on
Moutinho. Chris Moutinho.
yeah, Chris Mutenyo. He was
There you
supposed to
go.
be on Tough
Okay.
this season, but yeah, green hair, crazy. Sean put up a crazy, like a record number of significant strikes straight to his face. The dude just kept walking like a zombie. And like I was literally just thinking back as we were talking back to that fight. And like against Aljo, I mean, I don't know. I don't think he has that knockout power personally. Is it possible? Yeah, obviously it's the UFC, but that's my biggest scare is
When
like he may not even have that. He has to piece him up first to, get those points up, piece him up, and then go from there. That's how Sean usually fights. But when you're
Right.
going against a guy against Aljo, I don't. It's a lot harder to get that when you're scared about, okay, he's gonna take me down. I mean, I saw in the Yon fight, he got him like once or twice with a trip. He
Mm-hmm.
tripped Sean, and Jan's really good at that. But if Sean's just gonna, I don't know.
It's scary. It's a
That's just
scary
one.
fight.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think yeah, because also did you hear Sean mention how Aljo cuts all that weight,
Mm-hmm.
which makes his
yeah.
chin a little bit softer. So if he connects, that weight cut might drain Aljo's brain, everything, and one good hit and he might be out. So that's another thing to consider. Aljo cuts a lot of weight for these fights in this division.
If I'm a better, that's a
So
live dog as well. Sean and Chris are live
yeah,
dogs.
I agree.
I probably have a little more faith in Chris Weidman than
And
I
Neil
do in
Magny.
Sean. Yeah, yeah. And I think
And Neil Magny.
when we think, I said this to Simon, and I think in a text message recently, we were talking about the MMA math portion of this a little bit. So Corey Sandhagen, I saw him first time fighting live. I'd never seen him before in the first time that UFC came to Charlotte, right? He was the curtain jerker on the prelims. And so everyone's getting their chicken wings and being like, all right, what's going on? So he comes out and finishes the dude up against the fence, gets him in, hits him to the body, drops him. It's beautiful. He kind of went through that thing where he caught Marlon Moraes and then he caught all these people with these great finishes. And as the competition got a little bit harder, he's dropping people a little bit less. I mean, Piotr Jan's difficult to deal with. He's got a chin on him. You don't just drop him. It's not that easy. But now we're starting to see him get that distance on everybody. I love that he's got the new wrinkle to his game. He's got that grappling, all this stuff. As a fan, I love watching him fight, and I would have loved to see him and Sean O'Malley for a title. That would have been a fantastic gunslinger fight between two really interesting strikers. Similar dudes, kind of cut from the same cloth size-wise. They got long levers, very rangy. But the thing that had me so worried about the fight, and what I had told Simon, was that Aljo, when he fought Corey, knew full well what the assignment was. Corey had just knocked out Mirage. Spinning wheel kick in like the first 2 minutes, boom, he's out. And he then got knocked out, like 48 more times? Like, Marlon Moraes is now fighting outside like a Kmart in like Galveston, Texas. So
Yeah.
I feel so bad. I mean, the dude was on fire, and then his chin fell apart. But he's outside the Lava Shack with BJ
Same for
Penn.
Frankie Edgar.
Yep.
Yeah. He lost his last
over.
4 fights by
Mhm.
KO, TKO.
PFL as well. So Corey got taken down by Aljo fairly quickly because he knew the assignment. He knew what was coming. He took his back, snatched up a rear naked choke, finished it, and it was bad. I was a little surprised at how
Mm-hmm.
easy it was. I get a little shades of that, but I would love nothing more than to see Sean come out and show that extra gear, because he did show some real grit against Petr Yan. I gotta say, that was a gritty
Mm-hmm.
fight. He kind of won
Yeah.
off the grit, but yet again, that's another decision. We'll have to have a whole
Mhm.
other show about decisions. Something's going on. Petr Yan won that fight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a question too. You think Aljo watches that fight back? He's like, I got to finish this guy. Like, I know we're not going to go into that right now with the decision bias, the crowd bias, because I think the Boston crowd's always. I think they're going to go for Sean.
100%.
That's probably a fact at this point. So you think Aljo's watching that fight? He's like, I got to finish this guy. I mean, what do you think?
Mm-hmm. Because I got to
Mm,
replay this, and he knows how dangerous he is.
Yeah.
You can't
Yeah.
stand there across. And it's interesting you say that, because if he goes in there with the crowd that way, I hate that
Mhm.
it's this way. I hate it. But every
Yeah.
single time Sean lands a freaking jab, the audience is going to be like,
Yep.
woo! And people go nuts for that. And sometimes I do believe it influences judges a little bit. I think they hear that impact. I remember Anderson fought Derek Brunson in Brooklyn, New York. He came out, you thought Jay-Z was there. Everyone lost their minds. And Anderson would land like a jab, and people acted like Chuck Liddell just did a line of cocaine off the table. It was incredible. He got such a reaction that everyone just thought he won off of that, and he did. So he's got to be careful. He's got to control everything. He can't give Sean space. He can't let him perform or do anything. He's got to make it so boring. People will probably hate Aljo even more after this,
Mm-hmm.
but it's time to start respecting him.
Yeah.
It
And I
is.
think too, he's I feel like
Well,
he's proven himself. I don't think he's gonna even if it's boring, I don't think he cares. He's gonna be like, all right, I'm moving up. I'm calling people out there. I'm getting Sean, he's in the past now. I don't know. I don't think he cares about being boring. Like sometimes with fighters when it's their first headliner pay-per-view, maybe for a belt, I get a little nervous that they're gonna maybe try too hard. I think we've seen that in the past with a few fighters.
Get
I don't
gassed.
think we're gonna see that with Aljo. I think he's very comfortable in the main event space. I mean, literally 3 months ago, it's Henry Cejudo. So I think we're gonna see a good outing by Aljo.
What do you think, Simon, in
and then one
terms
more
of?
thing.
Oh, you go
Okay.
ahead. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I was gonna one more thing. Then I was gonna wrap it up. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask you. We're not moving forward to the if he moves up part yet, right? We want to have
Yeah,
that
we can talk
conversation.
about that. I was gonna. I guess the final question about this fight is what happens to Aljo if he wins or loses, and what happens to Sean if he wins or loses. I think Aljo's a little bit more question when it comes to this. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think Aljo, like we said earlier, like if Aljo wins, he's gonna move up. He's gonna fight Volkanovski, which Volkanovski just got surgery, and then you have Oliveira fighting Islam. So I think Volkanovski's probably gonna be out for at least a few months to the end of the year,
Mm-hmm.
which is probably a good time for Aljo to recover from this fight and take on Volkanovski. Which then, of course, Volkanovski will move up after that fight and fight Islam or Oliveira. But I think the big question is say whoever wins this fight, doesn't matter. Say it's Sugar Sean fighting for the title next versus Marab. How would you see? I think Marab would walk through Sean O'Malley. In my opinion, I think he's too much
Well,
of a. He's just a wrecking ball.
let me
I mean, the
chime in
dude
real
shot how
quick.
many takedowns?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, let me chime in real quick because I've seen a lot of things about Sugar calling out Cejudo. Like he really wants a Cejudo fight. He
Mm.
has not talked about Marab once. He talked about a few other people. Maybe throughout this week we're gonna hear more about Marab. I don't know. This is a little like conspiracy. Like him just he doesn't want to think about like a Marab. Like
Mm.
he's scared of that guy. Like and like Marab's he trains with the Aljo, so that's kind of like a weird like thing I'm seeing with Sean. He's been calling out. He really wants that Cejudo fight, and I would like to see this week someone question him about Marab. Like if he wins this fight, do you see yourself fighting Marab? I want to see him answer that.
Who's next? Truly, yeah.
Yeah,
I think if Aljo wins, he definitely is going to leave the weight class, and he's already said it. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
he's best friends with Merab. He wants Merab to take the spot. UFC does not want Merab to be the champion, and that's the conspiracy. Is that they don't want people who are just grinders. That's why they didn't like Carlos Esparza as the champion. They don't like. I mean, Khabib is a different story. He's not just grinding. Khabib was like crushing you. with ground and
Smashing.
pound. Yeah, it's very entertaining. It was not necessarily like this is not a hate on Aljo. I enjoy watching him fight, but a lot of people don't. I enjoy it. I'm a nerd. I like watching the control, and what he does is miraculous to me, and he's in tip-top shape. But here's where I think he would excel at 145. Here's a fight I'd love to see, guys. I want to see Brian Ortega against Aljamain Sterling at 145. It'd be such an interesting fight. And I think it would really expose the fact that Brian Ortega has absolutely no plan. And I don't know if he can deal with people who can game plan the way that Aljo does. Aljo brings too much pace. I think you're going to see him really crush a lot of people at 145. And imagine him a little stronger. Maybe he's got more power. If Sugar wins, man, I mean, the world is his oyster at that point. And I think he will definitely look for fights against either strikers or someone who he perceives is past it, which might be Cejudo. Cejudo's also a big money fight because of his name. So I think maybe a lot of it is money motivated. It's like you're not going to make as much money off pay-per-view buy percentages against Merab. So if he wins, the world's his oyster. He can call his shots. If he loses, I think there's so many fun fights for him. Like the Cody fight's fun. The Cheeto Vera rematch is good. Cheeto's another fighter that seems to forget how to fight until about 2 or 3 seconds of each fight and then finishes people. It's fascinating. It didn't work against Cody very well because Cody's so solid. I think Sean is definitely more okay in his career if he loses this than Aljo is. If Aljo loses, like we were saying, how everything's on the line, Brad, I'm on board for that. I think he's got a lot to prove, and I think he wants to just put the stamp on it. Whereas if Sean loses, people can do that. Oh, he's just a striker. They're gonna make excuses for him. That's what I think.
He'll make good excuses after. Like, I wasn't necessarily ready for that. He was just, grappling me the whole time. I'll be back. The fans like him. He's gonna have that publicity to get back in the mix. I think if Aljo loses, it's gonna be a little different.
Which is unfortunate, but
And I would
Yeah.
also, I would like to see even Sandhagen versus O'Malley.
yes.
Two taller, lanky guys. Sandhagen's all around. He can wrestle you. He can strike with you. I mean, I wouldn't
I
want that
think
fight if I was O'Malley, to be honest.
I think that's the championship fight to make if Sean wins. But I think Sean has his eyes elsewhere. But I think that's the fight to make if Sean wins.
Side question.
Sean's got some tough guys up there in the top 5.
I don't want to derail this, but is Cejudo shot?
I think so. I think that's why Sean's calling
I
him
think
out so
so.
much. He's prepping up that fight, and I think that's what I'm saying too. Before I probably didn't clarify, but I think if Sean loses, he can still get a fight like that. He can play his publicity stunt and still get that Cejudo fight.
It's getting harder and harder in this climate to tell when people are still relevant or whether they're just making cash hand over foot. And Jake, has made it this way where, he's very smart, man. Say what you will. He's figured this out. Like a lot of people are learning how to kind of capitalize on their name as they get a little bit more established. Like Cejudo, for whatever reason, has got this name. He's got a following. But I do worry sometimes about the legitimacy of the sport. I don't know if he really needed to walk into that title shot. I don't know. Maybe get him a tune-up fight before that and see if he should have been in there first. A little too much of the name fighting, right? I think it's time for us to kind of pull that back a little bit. Like, I'm very excited because both of the fights that are at the top of this card are both ones that are based on merit, right? This is these people got here off of just wins. They got here off of their rankings. No one is just put in. Thankfully, there's no Paulo Costa Luke Rockhold fight on this card, which it was fun, but man, it's not looking good. It's looking like light heavyweight. I've always said the weight classes, once you get to middleweight and above, starts to just plummet a little bit. The quality, the overall amount of guys who are competitive at those weight classes. When you're at 170 and below, it's like a candy shop. There's so many people that could come in out of any organization. There's so many fighters, like 155 to 170. So Cejudo, we love you. If you're watching this, we don't think you're shot. Well, they do, but I don't. Right?
No, I don't think. I think he's almost shot. Hey, this fight might help your cause just because seeing how Aljo plays out. It, you can However well Aljo does, you can compare that to the Cejudo fight.
If he
You know,
smashes.
if Cejudo does better than Sean, you're gonna be like, oh, maybe Cejudo wasn't as bad as I thought.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we talked about
All
O'Malley's
right.
next few fights, are we gonna hit on McGregor's next 3 fights, or are we
Oh,
gonna go into the break?
Oh yeah, so we can move on to that. So he did mention Chandler in December. Do you guys think that's gonna happen or not?
huh.
I think it is. I think it is, man. I think the UFC will bend any rules they can bend if there's Conor McGregor involved. So I think it's definitely, even though it probably hasn't been 6 months since he's pissed in a cup, I think he's gonna fight in December.
You know what's weird though? It seems like for the first time he's like obligated to fight. I don't know. It's just like a weird scenario. Like obviously when there's a belt on the line, he's like, it's McGregor. He's obligated to fight for that if he's in the race. But it just seems like he doesn't even want to fight. It seems like he's obligated to fight. I find that really weird with like, especially where he's at in his career, who he is, that he feels like he like is the UFC's forcing him to take this fight. And I think that's kind of weird. But I don't know what you guys think
Mm.
about that.
I used to be the biggest Connor nut rider back in the day when he was at 145. I was just loved the dude. You know what I mean? And I love watching him come up. I don't know if I'm crazy here. I have my doubts that he ever fights again. I just
Mm.
do. I don't know. For a while, I was feeling that way about John. It was announcement after announcement. It wouldn't come to fruition. Oh, he's gonna die. He's gonna come back and fight this guy. It's gonna be Brock. It's gonna be DC again. It's gonna be Stipe. It never happens. And then finally, he did come back. I do feel though the way he said one thing, Simon. I think to your point, does convince me that there's a possibility that he could show up. Was when he said to that reporter at the event. It was at the Joshua fight. He
Yeah,
goes,
anti-Joshua.
you can see his bald spot, by the way. Connor, welcome to the club of Irish bald guys. Been there for a couple of years. Welcome. It's all the booze. So I think when he said, I have to, he did say something like that. He's like, that's what they wanted me to
He
do. It was
did.
like an offhand comment. You might be right, man. So I think we'll see that.
Yeah.
After that, I don't know if we're going to see anything that could damage the brand. I'm not so sure his management's going to let him take certain kinds of boxing fights because there's a chance he could get flatlined by somebody who has no fighting background. And then I think that's really damaging to the brand. If he can put away somebody who like Chandler, who's still kind of a quality opponent, man, he might even need a little step down from Chandler. That's what I'm worried
Yeah.
about.
Chandler's
I think
dangerous. And
Mm-hmm.
go ahead, Simon.
no, you're good. Go ahead.
I was thinking, maybe McGregor's forced into this fight just to protect the legitimacy of the Ultimate Fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Because if this is the first
Mm,
season where these two coaches don't fight, what does that say for the credibility? So then the years after, there's a chance, these guys are leading their teams, but they might not even fight each other at the end of it. I think it will turn people away from the Ultimate Fighter if they didn't actually fight. So I think Dana's like, look, we have to protect ourselves a little bit. Let's make this fight happen, or this show might come to an end.
He's like, I let you have
yeah.
Floyd, so you're gonna give me this.
That's why I'm like confused though, because you would think they'd be able to bend the rules for him and get away with it. But like you said in an interview, he was like, I have to. It's like that's weird. McGregor, on the leash of Dana, saying he has to take a fight. I don't know. It's just really weird to me. Then he calls out KSI for a BKFC fight. So I don't know. He loves bare knuckle fighting. He loves.
He does.
That's he talks about that more than shit. The Chandler fight right now. Like he was at the Luke Rockhold Mike Perry fight. He was loving it. And he just calls out KSI. Um, Obviously he needs to fight in the UFC, but there's something about bare knuckle he loves. I don't know what it is. I mean, I like watching it, but
It's a spectacle.
But I think, and then he called out the Gaethje, the BMF belt. Gaethje, oh man, Chandler and Gaethje, those are two of the most dangerous guys in the UFC, and he's going back to back.
yeah.
I don't know if those two fights work out for him, but I think the Nate Diaz fight, I think that'd be an easy fight for him
That's fine.
if he can get through those two. But yeah,
I think that's the fight to make for him is Diaz. I think it's
yeah.
an easier fight at least. I don't know if he's just waiting around for that fight or something. I don't know.
I want to give you guys
I
some
mean, if he
perspective
gets finished twice,
in a row.
okay, go ahead.
Just as an old head, because I think that's going to be the dynamic, because I have all the old school knowledge. So here's the deal. I know all the stuff that nobody remembers or cares about. Back in the day, there was a fighter at 155 called Roger Huerta, and he was in the UFC. He was the first guy from MMA to get on Sports Illustrated. Look it up, it's real. Not Chuck Liddell, it was Roger Huerta. He was like handsome, kind of looked like, what's the tennis kid that we like now, but he just lost, got upset. Alcaraz.
Alvarez.
Alcaraz looks kind of like him. But he
Alcaraz
was like that first crossover guy, right? And he was kind of like Connor. He was like talking shit. He was beating people, calling his shots. And then he must have lost maybe 1 or 2 fights. Diego Sanchez, I remember, I think, put it on him really bad. And it was from that point a downward spiral all the way to getting knocked out in parking lots, fighting people, sexual harassment, whatever. It was just like nonstop drama. And it always, I reminded of that when I look at the fall from grace with Connor, because he really was important to us. And he is honestly the reason why a lot of people make better money off the sport. We forget. It's just like all marred by so much controversy. I know he makes a lot of money off that. I would kind of like to see a more fitting or a happier ending for him where he redeems himself a little bit. I would like to see it. It would be nice to see, and not just kind of more and more and more of this. I don't want to see, like when Chuck Liddell, where it ends with like the police at the house and stuff. I don't want to see that for him. I would love to see him kind of clean up his act and change it up. The question is, honestly, is if maybe he is more put together than he even looks. Is he just manufacturing this stuff at this point because of how much money it makes him? I don't know.
Yeah. I think the biggest issue with that is the ego. I don't know if he wants to go out with like an easy fight.
Right.
But I don't know. Like I think if he would have matured, he would have matured by now. That's my only scare, like with that cause. But I don't know.
It's too late.
I mean, you look at it this weekend. He's walking out of the bus with like 3 models, and he's married with 3 kids. I don't think the guy's anywhere close to turning things around. I think
He's got
he's
one
on this
girl
path,
for each
and
kid.
They're babysitters.
I'm not sure if his wife
is on board.
Then he posts today he's with his wife on a date night. It's like, does she mind? Maybe she doesn't mind. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know what's going on between those two, but that's not our business, I guess.
True.
I don't know if you guys watched the McGregor documentary, but behind the scenes, he was a lot more cool. That after that one loss, he was a lot more cool, calm, and collected. Oh, against the loss against Habib.
Yeah.
But he seemed like a lot more chill, and like he was volunteering. He felt better about himself, and that ego was slowly going down. So I think we need something like that to happen to him again. Because right now I feel like his ego is just all over the place. 1 second he's, chill, not, like you said, on the date night. The next thing you know, he's walking out of the bus with 3 models. So I think we're going to see where that ego goes. And if he fights Chandler and loses, maybe he's like, damn, like I need to go out with the easy fight. I need to chill out. But I just don't think that's who he is, because we saw when he came back to fight Dustin, he was all chill, all nice. He lost, boom, back to the old McGregor. So it's always like this with him. And so I don't know. We're gonna see where he. I think it's up to like his next fight. Like, however the outcome of his next fight is going to like. It's a trajectory of his ego and where his career goes.
Mm-hmm. His management has a big giant red emergency button.
Exactly.
And it says Tony Ferguson. They're like, this is it. We'll do this only if we have to. It's the only reason why we'll do El Cucuy.
He wins that fight. His ego's up. Get out of there. Go to fight KSI and bare knuckle. That's what we want to see. Well, maybe not all of us. But
Speaking of bare knuckle, what are you guys' thoughts on the Bryce Hall fight this weekend?
You have to take this over for me.
So I'll go first. I'll give you my opinion. I watched the fight live, and I think the first like 5-10 seconds, Bryce Hall just comes out with a combo and drops. What's his last name? Lopez.
I think so,
I never heard of the guy before. I don't know how legit he is.
He was a professional. He was 3-0.
Professional. He drops the guy in like 10 seconds, and he drops the guy, and after that, he's like, it's like he shocked himself when it happened. He's like walking around like, holy cow, like I just did that. Well, at the later that round, the guy gets some nice shots on him, and then the second round, that the guy's like he's grabbing his elbow. and Bryce is cut. Like, he's bleeding. The other guy has no damage to his face. Even though he got dropped, there's no cuts or anything. And the guy just like grabs his elbow, and then the ref stops the fight after the second round. And if you look at the interview afterwards, Bryce literally says, if that fight went 5 rounds, I was not going to win.
I was going to lose on cuts.
Which is what I thought from watching it as a viewer. So it's like, he won the fight, but was it a stunt? Was it, did he take a fall for the money? I don't know. But I think that's his last bare knuckle fight. I think that scared him a little bit. Even though he won, I think it definitely scared him. I don't think he wants to get back in there again.
I think the big thing too is just like respect. I don't think he wants to get back in there, but with all these influencer boxing shenanigans, he went in there against a pro fighter in bare knuckle fighting. Like, think about the KSI fight. I mean, it's not even like considered a pro fight based off like the regulations. Him and Logan's fight, they're not professional fights. He's going against Dylan Dennis. But even though it wasn't like that super impressive, I think just the respect level was there. Just going against a pro fighter and bare knuckle fighting, like taking a punch to the teeth. Like we saw what Mike Perry did to Luke Rockhold. Luke Rockhold, he dipped. He was like, I'm never doing that again. So I think there's some like respect there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame him if he doesn't decide to do it again.
Was there, help me out, guys, because I actually didn't even see this. I saw nothing off of this card. Was there allegations of it being fixed?
I don't think so. Bryce Hall isn't really even that. He's big, but he's not in the limelight like he used to be. Like, he's kind of like, he's really honestly hated. I don't really know him that well, but I don't think that's the type of fight type of person you fix a fight for. So
doesn't bring a big enough audience to make it worth it.
Yeah, I don't think it was. Now the prime card, KSI, Tommy Fury, and you got Dylan Dennis doing his shenanigans with Logan Paul. That, I don't know. Those might be fixed when the two headliners are sponsoring the event. I don't know. That's the discussion for when that comes.
I've learned not to hate this stuff because at first I was very resistant. But at the end of the day, dude, the people making money, people keep going to pay for it, people keep doing it. Listen, it brings new people to the sport. There's more people talking fights now than ever. Back in the day, it was so niche.
Yeah.
Nobody knew anything, and now at least people are talking about it. It's like, I didn't sit there necessarily rapt with attention at Nate and Jake. But you know what? When I heard that Nate made $20 million,
it was entertainment.
I can't hate on that. I can't.
That's crazy. That's insane money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. More than he probably ever made, probably off the whole run in UFC. Even if you put in those 2 Conor fights, he probably made like $2 to $4 million on those ones. And the other ones, he was like, what, 20,000, 40,000 a piece? Like, dude. It's crazy.
All right. Well, we'll see if McGregor ever takes up an offer like that. But go ahead, Brad.
Yeah. Did y'all give y'all's predictions on the Dennis and Logan fight? I was kind of cracking up a little bit, so I couldn't hear what you guys were saying.
Oh no, we were just talking about it. We didn't get predictions. We were just talking about it being fixed because it's like sponsored by Prime.
Well, Brad's convinced that Logan's not the best athlete in the world.
Oh yeah, he wants to talk about that.
That's where he goes wrong.
So I want to bring that up just a quick minute because I don't want to give all the attention they deserve. I think Dennis wins this. I mean, of course, McGregor said he's training Dennis for this fight. Who knows if that's a big help or not? I don't know if McGregor's a great coach. I mean, he's probably not reliable based on what he's doing day in, day out. But I think
was it the McGregor hate podcast, dude? Oh, we gotta chill out.
I don't.
He's gonna be watching this.
I don't see if you watch Logan versus Mayweather. Do you remember that moment at the beginning of the fight? Logan was like teeing off on Mayweather, but his punches were so ugly.
Yeah, they were.
He was punching with the inside of his palms and not his knuckles.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's been training more since then and he's kind of improved his form or anything, but he's not gonna. Dennis is gonna win that fight if he's had no improvement since then. But who knows? We'll see. He's been doing WWE, so I don't know how much time he's been actually training boxing. But I think Dennis has this fight. I think Dennis is in his head as well. with all these pictures he's posting with Logan's new fiance.
He photoshopped. He
Right?
actually got a lawsuit from
I mean,
Logan
imagine
for doing that.
proposing to this girl, and then 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, this guy's posting pictures to millions of people on the internet with her and other guys kissing each other and hugging each other, and on
Disgusting.
You know what though?
vacations like Leonardo DiCaprio and all these big name celebrities.
You know what though?
Imagine a
It's
guy doing
working.
that to you, and you have to
There's
go
people are starting
boxing
to
after
like
seeing
Dylan
these
again just
pictures
because
of your
of that.
newly engaged
Yeah.
wife.
I think Brad broke up.
He's frozen. He can't even defend his position at this point.
Yeah. We could talk about how Logan's obviously going to win that fight.
And he can't interrupt us.
Yeah.
Brad, if you want. Oh, you're good. You're back.
Be back.
Yeah, I lost you guys too. You there?
Here's the deal. Logan has been working on his clothes.
Did you hear everything I said or no?
Barely.
Pretty much.
We know you like Dylan a lot. I mean, yeah, Dylan a lot. So
No, but I was just saying, just imagine fighting a guy who's posting pictures to millions of people on social media after you just proposed to this girl you're about to get married to eventually, and she's with other guys for millions of people to see. I had no idea who she was with in the past, but now I do because of Dylan Dennis.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
yeah,
that
that's
definitely has to be in his head.
It's a good troll.
But Logan's getting mad about it. But dude, it's like influencer boxing. Like, it's a gimmick. He's taking it really seriously, I guess. But dude, like this is all for money. I think it's actually helping. I think the lawsuit was almost like a fake lawsuit. He's like, oh, I want to get involved with this by sending a lawsuit to Dylan. I think that was like set up to just, that's his comeback. Let's promote this fight. I don't know.
And all of a sudden it gets dropped and settled as soon as the fight's over. Interesting.
Yeah. Bro, text message. We got 50K more buys. Just based off that day.
Where's Dylan?
Man, those things are so sketch, dude. Those things got it. We talk about Aljo and Sean, the bias, but dude, those things got it. We got to look in the regulations of some of these influencer boxing things.
Who's on the actual judge board? Probably Abigail Byrd, that kind of thing.
Oh man! All right, you want to go ahead and get our picks in?
Yeah, we're about an hour in.
We'll do a snake draft where we each total pick 3 fighters. It can be main card, it can be prelims. We'll do a snake draft. Everyone gets 3 fighters total. I guess we can start off with me and do it like that.
I guess, man. You want to get first pick? Choose yourself.
I mean, I can give it to one of you guys.
No, that's fine. I don't know.
I'll go ahead and go first.
I'll let Alex go third so he can get the 2 in a row. So I'll go second.
Okay. All right. So my first pick, I am going to go. I'm gonna make it big. I'm gonna go Aljamain Sterling, first pick.
All right. For my pick, I'm going early prelims. I'll go with my boy from Tough Season, 2 years ago, Andre Petrosky. However you say it. I like him a lot. I think he's got a good matchup, so I'm gonna go with him.
I feel like he's got a layup with Gerald with Meerschaert. Because Meerschaert's been kind of sliding by lately. I'm gonna go a similar way. I'm gonna go to the early prelims with Karine Silva. She's opening up the card with against Mariana Moroz, and Karine Silva, she's actually sneaky. And she's got a bunch of finishes by submission. If you look at her record, it's pretty insane. And she's one of those people who came here off of her own steam instead of out of the Contender Series. You're seeing, that chick who just knocked out Juliana Miller last weekend. The prelims, did you see that? The girl from Tough got knocked out. That was another girl.
Oh, yeah.
Claudine. Some of these people that are coming outside of that Contender Series, I'm liking to see people coming from organizations again. I like to see that. I think you get more flavor.
I do too.
But I think she's got this one. But I think they might be trying to put Marina in a position where, it's time to either walk or win some. We'll see. But I definitely think she's a solid pick by sub.
I like that pick. You get the pick again, Alex, with the snake draft.
Who I do?
Yep. Snake. Yeah.
I'm gonna go crazy. I think Marlon Vera is gonna forget how to fight again, and Pedro Munoz is gonna win. I think he's going to put the pressure. He's going to chase him with leg kicks. And remember, my biggest thing that I'm going to always harp on with my picks, people who have attritive weapons, people who always have something they can throw. He's got a great constant inside leg kick that he throws and calf kick. I think if he can heat that up, he's got a good chance because Marlon's not that great on the ground, really. He uses his guard a lot, but he doesn't have good top game. And Pedro's got a guillotine from hell. So I think Pedro's got a great shot at this fight.
I like that.
I like that too. All right. For my next pick, probably should have waited on this because I know Brad's not going to pick this guy, but I'm going to go with Ian Machado Gary. Dude, I got to use, I think, yeah.
All
But
right.
yeah, I'm going Ian Gary for
So
my second
this pick is easy. This pick is easy for me. I'm going to go Gregory Rodriguez.
Ooh, RoboCop.
The dude, RoboCop. Yeah, he's the man. I'm going to go with Gregory Rodriguez, and then my next one, I'm going to go a little Ultimate Fighter here. I'm going to go with Kurt Halabaugh over Austin Hubbard.
Ooh, okay.
I think he looked impressive in his second fight last week that I saw. It was last week or 2 weeks ago. I think
last week, yeah.
He's a vet. He's been in the UFC, of course, but I think Halabaugh, I think he's dangerous.
Yeah. Kurt had that dog in him, dude. I hate people say that a lot now, but he deserves it.
Yeah, he does.
Get those words. All right, so I'm up again. So for my third pick, I'm going Wei Li. My final pick, Yang Wei Li. I really like her in this fight. We talked about it earlier, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. But yeah, I think I got a good lineup going.
What do you think happens?
All right.
Finish?
Yeah, I'm going to go finish round 3 or 4.
Okay. So
I like that.
This fight fell apart, and you actually called this out earlier with, is it Damon Blackshear is coming on as a late replacement?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so he's coming in for his second fight in a week. He's won with the Twister last week in fight night.
Very excited about this fight. Ah, man. I'm just going to take a chance. I'm going to take Mario Batista because Mario Batista had a really good performance against Corey Sandhagen at one point, and he almost took his arm home with him. He almost snapped that arm real bad, and he escaped by just by the skin of his teeth. But what I'd love to see more than ever is with those two dudes, I'd love to see some crazy scrambles and grappling exchanges. That'll be fun. I think that'll break up some of the swinging and banging that's on the card, give us a little bit of change of pace. I feel like Mario's been there. He's been preparing for this shot the whole time. We'll see. Maybe Damon's able to overcome the moment, but he's under the big lights now. I'm feeling Mario Batista's going to do this.
I like that pick. I was looking at that one, but I didn't want to go against Blackshear just because I was kind of rooting for him. So it's hard for me to pick against people I'm rooting for. But he's a 240 underdog, but I don't know.
Not saying it's a smart
I do like that pick though.
But that's an interesting
pick. So that's it for today. We're gonna do our main card picks. We'll post on the Instagram page. We kind of went through them earlier today, but we'll post those, our official main card picks, and then the snake picks we'll just keep on the podcast. We probably won't post those. What are you thinking?
Yeah, we'll just keep.
We'll
keep the draft.
Keep it for the listeners.
Yeah, it's listener exclusive. Make sure to check out the Patreon. No,
it's behind a paywall. Any of the good stuff is behind the paywall, unfortunately.
Also, if you want all our bets, we are sponsored by DraftKings. Use code SPARScene on the DraftKings.com. And you can check out our Patreon for the paywall. If you want to see all our picks, it's $20 a month.
Yep. If you want those feet picks, you guys got to pay up.
All right. That's it for the first episode of the Spar Scene MMA show. I'm Brad. We have Simon, Alex, a.k.a. Ducky. And we'll see you guys next time.